Could falling rates actually hurt home buyers? The next 2 to 14 months are going to be critical, and we're going to try to get you the answer of what to do with all these renegade rates. Hey, I'm Jon Mykala with Mykala Mortgage Planning at Dart Bank, and I've been in lending for nearly 30 years. And boy, there's all kinds of information out there right now. And what I want to do is bring you the actual data and not just media hype that's out there, and show you what's really going on behind the scenes so that you can make some calculated decisions and put yourself in the best spot to unlock all of your real estate making decisions. So by the end of this video, I want you to stick tuned. We're going to have some solutions for you and some answers. But first, we want to bring you the actual data that we're seeing out there, and not just media hype or even from well-meaning, friends, family, coworkers that are maybe used to what they went through, back in the 80s or something like that, because things are totally different. And we've got the data we want to show you that's happening right now so that you can be in a great decision and be able to move forward with all your real estate decisions. Okay, so let's break this down. A couple of first things. Let's talk about first how where we're at today, how we got here. So looking at real estate prices, we want to look at, we are already on our way down. So we started moving from the peaks that we had in the early part of the summertime, June, July, of $413,000. That price is already starting to slide down to $384,000. Next part is, and I don't need to tell you this if you're out been looking at houses, but the 30-year fixed rate mortgages has exceeded over 7%. We're starting to see some relief off that now, but that is the highest that we've had rates in over 20 years. On top of it, we're coupled with nearly 40-year high inflation rates, which obviously puts a pinch on everybody's pocketbook, from groceries to gas. And then the other thing that recently came out is that the National Association of Home Builders Builder Confidence Index has fallen consecutively for the last 10 months to a 10-year low. So now builders are beginning to contract and hold back on building. So these are all factors that go into what's happening in the marketplace. If we look at the affordability index, what people make on average, their average income is versus the average housing prices, we've also hit historic lows from the 1980s. So you'll see that kind of bottomed out in the summertime when we hit that peak price, has eased up a little bit, but we haven't seen levels that low since the early 1980s. And then finally, when we look at the time on market, the amount of inventory that's out there today for real estate inventories are beginning to grow, and we're up from 1 to 2 months to around 3.2 months, according to the National Association of Real Estate Agents. But that is still little more than 3 months less than the average balanced market of 6 months that we see in a normal market between buyers and sellers. So we're still lacking very much needed real estate inventory in the marketplaces. And then finally, as far as consumer sentiment, as far as the home buyers that are out there, this was a report provided by University of Michigan and Wells Fargo that show you can see what looks like it got kicked off a cliff, where consumer sentiment has dropped now to a low. How does all this put together? Well, I'm going to share with you, because I kept having conversations with clients and getting these responses. And I'm like, man, I really want to see the data, what's going on, because so many people are saying, hey, we're going to wait this thing out till rates fall, or maybe even house prices fall, to make some decisions. And I thought to myself, I've been through this now. I've been through multiple cycles, and I suspect I know what comes next as we move through this next economic cycle, but I wanted to know for sure. So my team here at Mykala Mortgage, we actually got on the phone. We made some calls. We put Facebook posts out, and we collected our own data. And interestingly enough, this is what came back in. It's the way it feels, but 64% of the people surveyed said they're on hold right now. This could be you, sitting on the sidelines waiting for interest rates to drop before you dropped in the market. And I thought to myself, I'm collecting this data because I want to be able to advise you properly on which direction to go, or at least to have more information at your hand so you can really see what's happening and what happens during these kinds of cycles. Because as you're going to see, that data can be misinterpreted, and we're going to walk through this for you so you can see what this all boils down to. The first thing I want to talk about is a real estate crash. People keep on saying, hey, not just real estate, interest rates, but we're going to wait for real estate prices to hit a bottom like they did in 2008. I went into very, very detailed information why we're not going to see the 2008 crash, why that we're in a different spot today than we are then. And I did it on a video earlier this year. I've got that YouTube posted if we want to connect. If you send me an email address, I can get you the link to it a little easier. Or if you're watching this on Facebook, direct message me or post it on, if you're watching on YouTube, write it in the comments and we can get that information to you. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but we have very detailed information that explains why we're in a different market today than we were in 2008. Housing shortages is a real thing that we're experiencing right now due to demographics and supply chains because of new construction. This is an article out of USA Today talking about the U.S. housing shortage being in a crisis, and there really is. It's going to take some time for us to work out of this. A lot of experts predict 5 to 10 years before we start to see a real balance between housing inventory or supply with demand. But as we keep talking about supply, let's go a little bit further. This was actual data that we included in our earlier video, but it does show the amount of new household formations that are they're coming to the market, where people are moving out of mom and dad's house and they are buyers. So it's not a person selling a house and buying another house. This is new household formations. We are running about 1.4 million per year. When we dig deeper into the data, and there's a lot of information that goes behind this, but if you look at new housing starts, less the number of homes that are taken off the market annually, to surpluses that are in the market, we're actually running a deficit of about 200,000 homes per year that we're missing outside the market. So I'm demonstrating all this stuff for you so you can actually see the lack of supply that they keep on talking about in the market is a real thing, and it's being demonstrated by actual numbers. The other thing we keep on hearing is about inventories are growing. I think we got down to a bottom earlier this year where there were only 900,000 homes on the market. That number has grown up to, as far as this, we're recording this video, about 1.2 million. But here's the thing we want you to understand. This is why digging deeper into the data makes such a big difference. That inventory is growing because houses are starting to sit longer with the higher rates and people backing away the market. That 64% that's sitting on the sideline. What's happening with new listings? So new houses coming on the market are actually falling. We are down right now in October, or last month in October, 15.9% less new listings coming to the market. In other words, those people that refinance their homes and secure those great rates in the 2s and 3s, they're now less likely to relist their properties or list their properties because they don't want to lose those great rates. So that's going to exacerbate this whole inventory issue. Again, I talk more detail about supply demand curves inside of the prior video, so I want to post that up here for you again. But I'd like to move now and talk a little bit about demand and why interest rates obviously affect demand up or down. Excuse me. And let's take a look at what is actually going on. I was on the phone call making the surveys, and I was talking to a really bright young gal. And one of the comments she made is, hey, listen, my job's recession proof. I'm going to wait for us to go into a recession where, people will, possibly get in situations where there'll be higher unemployment rates, and we'll see people selling homes, maybe having to relocate to other jobs, for other jobs out of the area. Whatever recession brings, that more homes come on the market. And we were having this discussion, and I wanted to, again, bring up the data because the Federal Reserve has already came out and they've given us their target rates of where they're going for unemployment. And you can see, from this most recent report that they're looking at a 4.5% unemployment rate, and we're currently hanging around 3.5. That's only a 1% increase. So what they're talking about is a relatively mild recession. And even in this article, it talks about here, excuse me, when we compare that to other, prior recessions, you can see that in the 2009, the housing crash that happened in 2008, that we were up to a 10% unemployment rate. And then even with COVID, where everything was shut down, we're at 14.3. So a 4.5% unemployment rate is relatively mild. And that doesn't take a lot of people out of the market that you may be competing against to buy a house. The next part of it is that we talk about average rents. As average rents continue to skyrocket, that pushes on the demand curve for people to go out and want to buy houses, because now all of a sudden rent's getting so expensive, they're like, hey, I might as well go out and buy a home. So that is really also another factor now, after the last couple of years of driving people to say, I need to buy a house and get away from paying this rent that goes absolutely nowhere. I've listed here where, obviously it varies by city, but you can see last year in Miami alone, average rent was up 24.6% to an average of $2,800. That's amazing. And then finally, the last thing is that if you're a buyer in the market, you are competing against buyers historically now at an all-time more stable age than prior. So the National Association of Realtors have come out and said that first-time home buyers are on average, their first time is 36 years old, and that they are older. That's an older age than we've ever seen before. And when people are older buying homes, that means they've been on their jobs longer, their income's more stable and at higher amounts. They've accumulated more savings for down payment. They've established credit with higher scores. So that competition for first-time homes are now very intense because the quality of a borrower is that much higher. So if you're let's just say fresh out of college and you haven't established a lot of credit, that's making it harder for you to compete against those other people. And you've got to have the right path and know the timing for solutions for that. So what does all of this mean? So it goes back again. I always like to think of it as business with a supply and demand curve. If we have lacking supply and a demand curve that gets shifted out, in or out because of interest rates, all other things being equal, that's going to give us an indication of what things are going to look like for inventory and possible, and more importantly for me, for pricing, for the matter for this video. So if we have interest rates that have been they've been accelerating up to that 7% range, that we have seen, or even exceeding that, and it puts everybody on the sidelines. So we should see a price decline because people are pulling out of the market. That pushes your real estate prices lower, which we have seen. I'll show you some information on that in just a moment. But as rates go back up, then typically that demand curve will shift too. So where do you want to be at as a home buyer in that process? Well, let's keep looking, okay? So this was a projection from Wells Fargo. They said in 2023 they would expect prices to fall 5.5% to a median price of $364,000 nationwide. We saw from that first curve just a moment ago that we were already at 384, down 7% from the peaks this summer. And they say even after 2023, they expect prices to go back up. If you can see that slide, it shows 376,000. So that already shows you a recovery coming off of next year. So by sitting on the sideline, you're trying to time that market to hit that absolute bottom. And I don't know about you, but I know for my real estate or for my stock portfolio investing, that is a really hard thing to do. So again, going back, we've already seen a 7% slide. We're there. We're at 384 already. And they're predicting maybe a little bit further slide. But if you recall from some earlier projections this year, they talked about a real estate market correction anywhere from 5 to 10%, and we're already down 7. Okay. The one thing I want to be very clear on is obviously this is talking about national averages. Real estate can vary. Real estate prices and the respective markets can vary by very local or regional areas. I wanted to post up here where we show that those slides where Austin and Phoenix, some of the hotter markets, are already down 10 and 9% respectively. So my best recommendation is to talk to your real estate agent and find out specifically where you're at and have them bring up your local market statistics so that you can compare kind of with these national averages of what we're seeing. and what's happening in your market, and they can present you with this same kind of data and just mirror it from being national to local. But now you know how to look at all this and go, gosh, the timing, really is right now. And being on the contrarian side while everybody's sitting on the sidelines. And if your market has already made a pullback, now may be that perfect window for you to jump in. Okay. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is a chart, and I pulled this actually off of social media, and that stuff drives me crazy. Also, I said I want to see the data behind this. But what was interesting is I said, so I've heard so many times over the last several months that, hey, this is reminiscent of the 1980s market when rates went to 18%, and we don't suspect that rates are going to go anywhere near 18%. We've already actually seen them start to subside a little bit off those highs in the sevens. Is that in the 1980s, real estate prices actually remained relatively stable, and they did increase. I had some notes here when things started to exceed 10% on a 30-year fix in the early 1979. The average house price was $48,000. By the end of 1981, where rates had kind of peaked, real estate had still appreciated to the average median price of being $61,000. So that graph actually ends up being relatively accurate. Now, depending on the timing, 6% could be, that actually looks a little light off of what I have in front of me. That shows probably closer to 20% off the actual numbers. But I do believe that this is indicative of what you typically see of housing prices going into or coming out of a recession, because as the housing market goes into a recession, the feds will eventually start to back off those interest rates, and that will again spur the market. So everybody that's waiting on the sideline then jumps back in and drives those prices back up. So where do you want to be at in that line? Do you want to be moving with the herd, or do you want to be ahead of everyone that's standing in line waiting to get in that front door? And here's an example. I just thought I would run this for you. At 7%, if you take a $10,000 change in a mortgage amount, it equates to about $66. So if we go back to that prior slide that we had showing an absolute bottom of 384 from where we're at on a median average this month to their projected bottom, and that means if you actually absolutely hit the timing perfectly on the bottom of the market, that's a difference of about $133 per month on that $20,000 fall. Or if it's a $200,000 house, it's a difference of $66. And my question to you is it worth the timing when you're eager to get into a house? So, and only you can answer that question. So that's where I want to bring this data and information for you, because that allows you then to make an educated decision with what's in front of you, rather than being a kind of more emotional off of things you've heard or you're seeing, on the internet or Facebook, or again from well-intentioned folks that are using, other scenarios maybe from 2008 or the 1980s. So solutions, where do we bring you solutions for all this besides providing data for you? Well, we call it the Renegade Rates Make No Mistakes Home Solution Series. What we want to do is, for absolutely free, no cost to you, over the next 4 weeks, starting next Tuesday on November 22nd, is at 4 o'clock. We want to provide a live series for you that provides solutions to the problems that we're seeing in the market. The first one, again, this is absolutely free, no cost to you. We're going to provide it out there. You can, if you're on Facebook, you want to follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Mykala Mortgage, or you can also send me an email, and I'll make sure that we can actually send you a copy of the recorded email, or give you notice of being live on Facebook. But anyway, we want to make sure that you're in front of this to have all the information that we're going to provide. So what will you get out of each one of those weekly videos? First one is discover the 6 questions you have to ask yourself to the answers and have the answers to these questions in order for you not to buy in this market, regardless of everything I just shared with you. There will be times when it may not be the right timing for you, and we're going to give you the 6 questions to ask yourself to know what that looks like. How to locate real estate, rare finds without competing offers or overpaying for a home in the neighborhood of your choice. On that call with this brilliant young gal who I'm super excited for, she talked about foreclosures and waiting for that to hit the market. Folks, I've got people that have actually flipped multiple homes in the last couple of years, even with the market being as strong as there are. Today, there are foreclosures happening in this market. Now, the thing is, it's only about 1 to 2% of the overall market. So if you're going to be in that position, you need to know where to look for them, how to find them, all the information it takes to be more of an investor than a home buyer. So you have to ask yourself, what is the purpose of you buying a home? What does that look like, and how are you going to go about it? The 4-point preferred payment program that can be used to reduce your monthly payment and provide much needed relief in the first, second, and third year of your home. There are programs out there today that can get you relief on your monthly payment and help you buy time, so that in the event that rates do come down, you're able to capitalize on that without ever having to extend yourself beyond the budget you want to put out there. And we can share with you what those look like. And then finally, how to buy a home of your dreams without having to sacrifice location, size, or features. I get a lot of people asking, like, hey, Jon, I don't think I can ever afford to buy this $400,000 or a $500,000 house. And you may be right. You a lot of times will know better than a bank running, figures and ratios for you. But what we want to do is provide you some background of the tools that it takes to actually get to those places and spots where you are comfortable. In our last series, I call it the mortgage mentorship. That 4th week is going to be invaluable if you fall into that category. So again, join us live on Facebook. We'll be posting it to YouTube on November 22nd at 4 o'clock, and then every Tuesday at 4 o'clock following for the next 4 weeks. We'd love to have you. We want to provide a ton of value, and we hope that it makes a big difference for you. Again, if you want copies of this slideshow, or the data, the noted sources that I collected all this from, just send me an email, and I'm happy to put this together for you and send it to you in a PDF, and also get you on a list to be able to notify you as a reminder each Monday before we release our videos on Tuesday, so that you can get a copy of it, or just have the ability to go on and watch Facebook Live. So, hey, we appreciate you taking the time. I know that it's time out of your day to be able to do this, but it's important to us that you get great information, and we want to be there to serve you. So, and at any time, if you've got questions, don't hesitate to call any member of our team here at Mykala Mortgage Planning at Dart Bank, 734-433-5380, and we will see you next Tuesday.